Well, good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. I'd like to acknowledge members of our Gender and Sexual Diversity Advisory Board, as well as our Diversity Liaison Officer, Constable Dana McElroy, who are here today, members of the community. These folks do so much good work in our service and in the community, and they've played an integral role in getting us to where we are today. Now, we understand there's a long history between police and the GSD communities across the country. Here in Calgary, we continue to acknowledge our past actions have not always shown gender and sexually diverse Calgarians the levels of compassion and respect that they deserve and that our service values. Locally, our desire to improve these relationships and to demonstrate a strong and unwavering commitment to the principles of equity, diversity, and inclusion led our service to issue a formal apology to the GSD community in July of 2018. And at that time, that made us the first police service in the country to issue such an apology. The relationship between CPS and the GSD community has evolved positively since that time. But an event that frequently emerges as a very real impediment to the authentic and trusting relationships with the police is the service's investigation of Goliath's Bathhouse in 2002. The investigation culminated in a raid on the Bathhouse 20 years ago today that resulted in 17 people being arrested and charged, and in addition to that, charges were laid against the establishment itself. We know the events of that night 20 years ago, though lawful, landed heavily on those directly involved, as well as indirectly on the LGBTQ2S+ community at large, resulting in feelings of distrust, dislike, and a fear of the police that for some continues and persists to this day. Our liaison officers have spoken directly with many of those who were impacted by the arrests and have been working with them towards meaningful reconciliation. This includes listening to and acknowledging the impacts of the trauma arising from those experiences, as well as taking some very practical steps to help those who were charged with the process of doing things like having personal information removed from police databases along with fingerprints and this type of thing. While the relationships between the LGBTQ2S+ community and our service continues to improve, as I said, we understand there's still much work to be done to solidify that trust and confidence. This includes a willingness to have honest and ongoing conversations about the things that go well and about the things that don't go well, like the impacts of the raid on Goliath's. We are indeed fortunate to have a strong and engaged GSD advisory committee and a designated gender and sexual diversity liaison officer working between our services and the GSD community to continue that honest dialogue, surfacing opportunities as they've done here for taking joint steps toward healing. Diversity, inclusion, and cooperation are cornerstones of a strong city, and a strong city needs quality, compassionate policing. At CPS, we are committed to furthering our work and relationships with the LGBTQ2S+ community and all communities to ensure our path forward is one of respect and collaboration, and that we do that journey together, because when we do it together, that's where we're strong. We are committed to earning the trust of your community, and as we've said before, CPS belongs to all Calgarians. I'd like to read the following acknowledgement regarding the events of December 12th, 2002. We acknowledge that the 2002 raid at Goliath's Bathhouse caused enormous pain and trauma for those involved. The incident had and continues to have lasting impact on the individuals who were arrested and charged, and also had a negative impact on the relationship between the police and the larger LGBTQ2S+ community here in our city. We appreciate the community coming forward and expressing their concerns to us regarding the events of that evening 20 years ago. And while we cannot fully understand the impact of the situation on everybody involved, we do know that our participation contributed to the trauma they experienced. Our relationship with gender and sexually diverse Calgarians has changed since 2002, but we know there's more work to be done. We are committed to listening and engaging with members of the LGBTQ2S+ community to learn how we can provide you with the most compassionate and equitable policing services possible. We are committed to learning, evolving, and to working with Calgarians to create the kinds of relationships that allow people to feel comfortable about having these difficult but important conversations with members of our police service. The CPS is absolutely committed to encouraging and protecting safe spaces, including those for LGBTQ2S+ Calgarians, and to safeguarding all businesses and all citizens from hate-induced crime. Thank you all for joining us again. I'm proud to be here with members of the GSD Diversity Advisory Board and to acknowledge this event and to reflect on how far we've come in 20 years. In the future, I hope we can reflect with pride on days like today and days like the 2018 apology, recalling how our collective efforts to build relationships and understanding in moments like this one helped build a bridge to an amazing relationship between police and the GSD community here in our city. I'd now like to invite Board Member Mark Randall to say a few words as well. Mark?
I'm glad your font was as big as mine. This is actually quite surreal. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here this morning. My name is Mark Randall. I don't know if media wants me to spell that out, but if you do, find me later. I'm your designated Gender and Sexual Diversity Advisory Board member who has been given permission to speak on behalf of our board and the acknowledgement of the raid on Goliath, December 12th, as per our terms of reference. Today is both historic and traumatic in Calgary's queer history and relationship with CPS. The significance and subsequent impacts of the CPS raid cannot be understated or discarded. The raid directly impacted innocent men, business owners, and staff of the business through charges and media following up with outing them to full public scrutiny, and in some cases, outing folks to family members who had no idea about their sexuality or their orientation. This was devastating. The raid also impacted our community's relationship with each other, as some who were allies and the ones that you would think would be standing with us outraged at the action that was taken upon our community turned their own personal values and moral judgments on those individuals attending the Bathhouse as those men who were going to that place. Again, a significantly negative impact on our community. The worst, however, was that a place believed and felt to be a safe place had been raided with full force, power, multiple city services that were without question above and beyond what was needed based on the undercover investigative premise presented for the raid. Unfortunate CPS sidestepped their own GSD CPS liaison member who had actually cultivated a really good working relationship with our community at the time and was left out of the conversation. When charges were stayed, the response from CPS was that they felt they were right to do what they did and that the conduct of the raid was valid and that they would do it again if they felt necessary and could. It left me, honestly, and others wondering what gay business is next. Could we trust CPS in an emergency, especially if it was homophobic in nature? 20 years later, threads of that sentiment remain entrenched. Trust was broken. And that is an extremely hard relationship to repair. To quote Chief Neufeld from our conversation last week, what good came from this action? Nothing. Absolutely nothing good came of it. Now, in fairness, because I believe in a hug, slap, hug reality. That was then, and this is now. That was then painful, traumatizing, and with long-standing consequences for a feeling of safety by our community and its relationship with CPS. This, however, is now. And now started when CPS liaison officer, I'm not sure if it's constable or not, Diana McElroy, noted in a meeting with colleagues that it was the 20-year mark of the raid, and was there a plan to do anything? That trickled down, because that's the way it works in our community, telegram, telegraph, someone else. That trickled down to our advisory, and we were concerned about this opening old wounds, and what was the point? What was to be gained, and who could possibly be harmed and re-traumatized by opening this subject to the public? What has followed is nothing short of amazing in my eye. CPS leadership took the initiative to connect with their GSD advisory board and current owner of Goliath to discuss how best, if at all, what to do. We met with CPS members who could make decisions and take action to remove all records of persons charged in the raid and work with us towards this day. We connected the people impacted to our CPS liaison to ensure they were walking with them and supporting them in the process from the very beginning. I appreciate this due diligence by CPS, or I do not think we would actually be standing here today having this conversation. The CPS apology to community in 2018 was a beginning. Today is just another step towards building a relationship of trust and respect by acknowledging the past, learning from this past, and working towards building an inclusive, respectful, and safe community for all Calgarians. I want to thank everyone who dedicated the time and diligence to make sure the process was done with respect and humility, ensuring the people most impacted were part of the conversations and could find the resilience to stand in this room with us today at CPS HQ of all places. I want to thank the GSD Advisory Board for participating and connecting people who needed to be part of this conversation, to the owners of Goliath for participating from the start, and most importantly, the men who have shown their resolve and resilience to stand here today after what they've endured. I am honored and humbled by your actions and engagement through this process. With that, I will end. Thank you. Miigwech.
Any questions for the chief or for Mark?
I do have a question. I was going to wait until the end for Chief relevance. Unfortunately, I'm related.
Okay. Anything?
Try and stay focused on this first. But
Yeah.
then, absolutely.
Anything on topic? Sorry. Hi.
Hi, question for Mark. My name is Anna, live in Pharmacy, Canada.
Bonjour, bon matin. That's my French.
You said that today was, the apology was a first step, today is another step. What else needs to be done, anything that you, if this is just a step is done now and it's not
To be fair, today, as I said at the beginning, I'm here to talk about this topic. There's lots of concerns and issues that different parts of community in Calgary have with CPS. That's theirs to work through. That's theirs to negotiate through, not mine. But I think this is an example of their openness and willingness to engage in that process. And ideally, other community can see how this advisory worked and maybe connect with the other advisories that exist within CPS for those communities who have also been affected. So there's lots of work to do. There's always work to do.
would you say as far as what happened 20 years ago at Goliath, this is kind of the end of that chapter, that's kind of the solution of what happened 20 years ago?
I'm not going to say it's the end of this chapter because there will always be residue and remnants of this action. It's part of our history. It's embedded in our community. There's people who I know are going to come up to me probably at some point today and tell me what a crock of shit, maybe. But to them, I say it has to start somewhere. And the fact that police initiated, approached, and engaged with us tells me that that is a huge step forward from we're going to do what we want and suck it up, buttercup, which was 20 years ago. I hope that answers it.
I did have a question as well for Mark specifically. What does it mean to you to be in this position now, to be on the board and speaking here today?
It's definitely humbling. It's definitely surreal having been an employee, a previous employee when it went down. It's an incredibly positive feeling to see something that was such a thorn and a significant presence in community finally be spoken to with some sense of clarity and transparency and honesty, and with that, and for that, that's a great privilege for me to be able to stand here and convey that. In part, it's because nobody else really has the comfort to do this. In fairness, but it's a humbling day for sure to see this happening in community. 20 years ago, I would not have believed this would ever come to fruition. So kudos to everyone, everyone who did the work here. I was an employee. I had stopped working just 2 weeks prior to the bust, so I was a little fearful. They thought I was the shithead who maybe made the call. Sorry, I shouldn't really talk. Should be very mindful. I am not known for my muting very well. Sorry. So I was a previous employee. I just finished working there 2 weeks prior, but I knew every single person working there. I knew those customers walking through the doors, and I knew the people who were saying the good and the bad and the ugly about what went down from our own community, and it was hard. It was a hard place to stand in community and watch our own attack our own, while the police were attacking all of us, and it was a hard time. It was a very hard time.
Can you talk a little bit about what Goliath meant to the community at that time and what's continued to mean over the next decade?
Depending on who you talk to in community, I think it was a safe place. It was a place where a lot of community were coming out in. It's where people were discovering their sexuality, first time connecting maybe with other men of like-mindedness. It was, for lack of a better word, it was like a little gay Cheers. Dirty little seedy place in the basement with, but where everybody knew your name. And people, it was family. When the majority of those folks coming there couldn't go to their own families because they were being judged, tormented, and attacked for who they were, and couldn't tell their family who they were. So this, it was a safe space for people to be able to meet and connect, and that raid devastated that safety for so many people.
Any other questions for Chief of Police?
I'll just add one comment, Tyson, before you go to that one. I just want to say thanks to Mark and thanks to the group. I myself have learned a lot from my discussions with members of the community about this. And, when Mark talks about Goliath being a safe space at that time, I don't know if I fully appreciated it until engaging in that conversation. And so I think that's the point here is, I think your question's a good one about it. Is this the end? I don't think it's ever the end. I think this is a relationship we're talking about here. And the key is it's one we want to have. And so it's like any other relationship in our lives. If you want to have it, you invest in it. You talk about the things that are hard to talk about, and you earn your trust every day. The rent is due every day. And at the end of the day, I think, with the ongoing conversation, and I'm very proud of Diana, as Mark said, it was actually Diana who recognized the 20-year date coming up and threw out the idea of what can we do. And to Mark's point, I think a lot of people thought there maybe wasn't much that could be done, but it was amazing when you engage at the right time around issues and the right sort of heart posture from folks. There's a lot of stuff that could be done when you don't think there can, and I think this is a testament to that. So anyway, very proud of everybody for engaging in this and moving the relationship forward. Again, another step in a positive way. And again, if we don't do things like this, I think 20 years from now we'll still be talking about painful parts of our past. But again, as I say, I'm hopeful that 20 years from now we'll talk about days like today when we came together and had a win together at a time when actually communities really divided. So I'm really proud of what we've done here, and it's been an honor to be involved. And again, really proud of the folks who did the heavy lifting. So thank you. Over to you, Tyson. It's always that guy, Tyson. It's fine.
I'm just wondering if there's an update on the altercation that occurred Saturday night, whether or not it is being investigated as homicide or treated as such.
No update this morning. Maybe later today. I think the autopsy is scheduled for today. So once that happens, that'll be a key piece. So then there might be an update after that.
Okay. And then, so no indication whether or not the individual driving the car was injured in the crash or injured prior to crashing the vehicle after the altercation?
I think what we'll end up finding is that the injuries were part of the altercation, not to do with the crash itself.